celebration. All right. Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Thanks. I just have a couple of quick announcements for folks, just to let you know for next week. We've got a lot of things going on. I just want to let you know that Monday, January 7th, we have chair exercise now on Mondays and Wednesdays for next week at 11:30, right before lunch. So if you're interested in starting to exercise and work out a little bit for one of your New Year resolutions, this is the time to do it. We also have a movie showing on Monday from 1 to 3 right after lunch next week. Tuesdays, we have card games at lunch, and then Thursday we have bingo at lunch too. So please check that out. And then Wednesday, again, cheer exercise. Thursday, we have a movie as well from 1 to 3. So lots going on. Busy week next week. And book club, too. Someone said that. Thank you. That's right. January 18th, we have a chili cook-off contest. Something new that we're trying. There is a sign-up sheet on the bulletin board if you're interested in that. If you're a chef and you like to make chili, now's the time to do it. We will be picking a grand winner for that. So something that we will be judging on. We will get a taste test of everyone's chili. So something different to do if you're interested in that. That's January 18th. Also, very important just to let you know also that we have AARP. The taxes are coming up, filing your taxes. They will be coming here starting February 4th, every Monday morning. So sign up for your appointment for that. All right. And we do have a speaker next month that's talking about that too for Lunch and Learn. All right. And the only other thing I wanted to mention is Lynn's birthday is Sunday, so happy birthday, Lynn. Wish you a happy birthday. All right, so why don't we start with a moment of silence before lunch, please. Okay, thank you. Enjoy your lunch. And I want to welcome Chief Montminy and Officer Stockwell, and Bear is here too.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for once again attending another Lunch and Learn. We have a real treat today. We're going to introduce you to Officer Tom Stockwell and his dog Bear. And Bear is the brains of the organization here. He just holds the leash. Bear does all the work. Bear is actually not a German Shepherd. It's a Dutch Shepherd. And hopefully Tom will tell us a little bit more about that.
All right. Again, I'm Officer Tom Stockwell. This is K-9 Bear. This is the first police K-9 in the town of Uxbridge's history. Program's about 3 years old, and we're very excited to be here today. We did come here about 3 years ago and give a presentation about the startup and everything. We're 3 years in now, and we have a lot of things that we'd like to bring to you as well. At the end of the presentation, I did bring some training videos. You can see what Bear does during his training and some of his capabilities. So we'll get going. All right, so K-9 Bear, he is a Dutch Shepherd. I get a lot of questions about his coloring and his size. He is on the large size for a Dutch Shepherd, but the top 3 police K-9 dogs, usually we call them the pointy ear dogs. You can see his ears are up and pointed. We have the sable German Shepherds, the Belgian Malinois, which is the smaller fawn-colored dogs, and then the Dutch Shepherds. The Dutch Shepherds, or we call them Dutchies, do come in different coats. There's a wire coat, there's a long fluffy coat. They come in black, blue, fawn-colored, brindle, just about every color you can see in a dog. But the most common ones you'll see is this beautiful tiger stripe brindle. All right. Let's relax. So I just gave him a command to lay down. It is in German. A lot of his foundation training was with the German commands. The reason we do that is a lot of these dogs come from overseas, and they do have their foundation training in either Czech, Dutch, or German, and German is pretty universal for police training for canines. We also use it because most of the people on the street when we're working don't know what we're saying, which is the advantage for us and for our safety. He is about 90 pounds right now, which is a good weight. He's very, very healthy and muscular, and his vet likes him at this weight. He's very fast, so if you're a bad guy, you're not going to get away. He's going to catch you. We've estimated his speeds to be 30 to 35 miles an hour from a dead stop, so he's extremely fast. Good. And some of you noticed his temperament. He's very intelligent, but he's also very social. We are a community policing agency, which is very important to us. So we can't have a dog that's so sharp that it's biting people and he's not approachable. So you noticed earlier when he gave us a little bit of a bark, that was solely based on a command that I gave him. And he can turn it on and turn it off, and we're very fortunate for that. So a little bit about how we started the program. Because we're a smaller agency in a small town, financially it's not cheap to get a dog up and running. So we reached out and found this grant from the Stanton Foundation. Ultimately, they gave us $43,000 of a non-competition grant to get us up and running. The initial funds was $25,000 to basically purchase a dog, get any equipment that we might need, and either purchase a cruiser or upfit the one we had, which is what we did. Once we complete our patrol training, the initial phase of his canine training, we received $14,000 to reimburse my salary, because I was away from the town for 14 weeks, which for a small department, it can be a little bit taxing on the shift. So it's important that we can have this money reimbursed, so we didn't lose we didn't lose out for the staffing levels, which was very important for us. And we went back for our specialty training, which was narcotics. Bear is a narcotics detecting dog. That was an additional 6 weeks of training, and received an additional $4,000 for that. So ultimately, like I mentioned, $43,000 that did not have to come from the town, and it's basically from a foundation that loves police canines, and they assist smaller agencies. Used to be just Massachusetts, but now it's throughout New England, to get canine programs up and running. So we're very fortunate. Initially, we projected our sustainability of the grant before we had to come to the town 3 to 5 years. We started in 2015, and we're right on track with that, so we've been very fortunate. Just to build on that a little bit, we have not fundraised, but we have received so many gifts from the town. We have a huge support base. We do have people that will give us food for the dog. We've received, probably the last year we haven't paid for food for the canine, and this is through people that just absolutely love him and appreciate what he does. So we've been very fortunate. So a little bit about his training. We went into Boston every day, or throughout Massachusetts actually, but we trained through the Boston Police Canine Academy. I'm a little biased, but it's probably one of the best canine training facilities in the United States. The master trainer, Troy Casey, has over 30 years of police canine experience, and he's just an absolute whiz with these dogs, and you can kind of see the result from his training. I mentioned the 15 weeks initially, then the additional 6 weeks. What we did is, these dogs are still young and they're still learning, so they'll get to patrol training. We'll go back out on the road for 6 months to a year. The dogs will mature a little bit. The handler will get some more experience. And then we'll go back for our initial training, and then we'll be a fully certified dual-purpose dog. And dual-purpose meaning he is patrol and narcotics certified. So his training never stops. So to keep his certification up, we do 2 8-hour days of training per month, with a 16 hours per month total. But we train almost every day, whether it's on shift or off duty, because it's a perishable skill for the handler and the dog, so we always keep him sharp. So these are his current certifications. You can see there's a bunch. There's a lot of different functions within the patrol certification itself. The obedience is, I always say, it's the foundation of any training for a dog, because if you don't have an obedient dog, he's not going to take any more training. Building searches, this is fairly common for us. We'll get an alarm call, we'll go to the building, we might find an open door. Instead of sending an officer in alone, we'll have a police and a K-9. They have very strong powers of smell and hearing, so we'll go in, he'll make it safer for us as we clear a building. And it's fairly common in town that we'll do these building searches. Article searches, for our purposes, articles just means evidence. If there's a crime that's occurred and evidence is discarded or evidence is lost along the way, he can use his powers of his strong odor power to go out and detect that human scent. Area searches, similar to a track in a building search, you're basically searching, searching a confined area for a potential suspect. Agility, these dogs have to be certified in different environmental things that they'll encounter. One of the biggest issues with these dogs when we get them is they won't walk on a shiny floor, they won't walk upstairs. Being in a confined room, a lot of different people, any of these variables can affect these dogs negatively. So we have to put them through all these different scenarios to make sure that they are able to do so, because the first time they encounter a shiny floor or a set of stairs or a crowd can't be when they're working, because it could have a really bad outcome. Criminal apprehension, I'll touch on this a little bit later in the presentation. Most people, when they think of police canines, all they think about is the barking and biting. It's a very, very small portion of what we do. He is certified in it, he can do it, but you can see right now he's not biting anyone, he's not barking at anyone, he's very, very social and civil. So he is capable of it. He is a use of force through the police department, like any other use of force we do have. Good boy. Sit. Good boy. Good. So he is certified in that, but it's a very small portion of what we do, and it's kind of a misconception with police canines. I mentioned earlier we were speaking about handler protection. You may be addressing me, we'll be talking, but the dog is looking somewhere else. He's always scanning for threats, and he will protect me if someone is assaultive towards me or another officer. So another big part of what he does. And tracking is probably the largest part of what he does, whether it's a bad guy that flees from a scene or a lost child. He can track them just the same, and it's probably one of the most rewarding and common things we do. We've had a lot of success finding the bad guys, and we've had a lot of success finding the good guys, which was a lot more rewarding. And finally, narcotics. It's no secret to everyone that we do have an issue throughout the country, but specifically in the Blackstone Valley where we live. He is currently certified in approximately 8 different odors, including opiates, and he can use his power of scent. He has a great nose for it. We're very fortunate. We've had some success finding drugs and getting them off the streets. Good boy. So I mentioned earlier 2 different functions legally for our dogs. When we go to court, we have to kind of articulate what these dogs do. Everyone thinks they're, again, the aggressive side. What they do is a locating tool, whether it's evidence, drugs, or people. That's their primary function, and we sometimes lose sight of that they're not attack dogs. They are highly trained locating tools. And in the blurb just below it, it mentions that when we encounter a bad guy, they basically control the outcome of what's going to happen. We don't just sick dogs on people. It's not that. They have to fall into certain parameters before the dog can be used in a use of force situation. Again, it's a very, very small portion of what we do. And this would be the secondary, is a use of force. In 3 years, we've had 0 apprehensions by force. We have no bites. So when we go to court or we have to explain how this dog works, I can go and say this dog in 3 years, in all these different scenarios that I've been through, has never had to apprehend someone using force, which is a huge statistic for us. Certain departments that have a very high bite ratio get looked at very stringently through different groups, ACLU, different types of that. So having a very low or 0 apprehension rate is important to us. He's capable, but he doesn't need to unless he's told to. And he's had countless apprehensions that didn't require force. Just his mere presence, his barking, was enough to have some pretty bad people surrender without a fight. No one got hurt, so that's a win for us. A little bit about what they do. Again, tracking and locating lost people or suspects. Evidence is a big part of what we do. If someone is assaultive and flees from a scene or barricades himself, we can send the dog in. He's trained to locate and apprehend if need be. Handler protection I touched on is very important. The odor detection, his nose is fantastic, whether it's evidence or narcotics. And finally, community policing. And to be honest with you, when I started this 3 years ago, I didn't realize how much the dog would bring to the community and back to the department. It's been a huge asset for community policing. It's probably one of our favorite things to do. Excuse me. It's kind of an unintended benefit, but it's been huge for the department. We do have 2 different social media platforms. We have Instagram and Facebook, and he has followers and supporters from around the world. It's very impressive. So we get asked this a lot about the ages of the dogs, when they can retire, how long they last, when they start. So this kind of sums it all up. 1 to 2 years is good. Puppies are harder to train, but you'll get a longer career out of them. A dog that was a little bit older is easier to train and is a little bit more level-headed. He was 2 years when we got him. We've been in service for 3 years, so he's 5 years now. We project 6 to 8 years with a healthy dog. So we're right on track. 5 more years with him if he stays healthy, God willing. And and we get this question a lot: what happens when he's done? We created this policy over 3 years ago with Chief Laurie, different handlers from throughout the community, and it was important that the dog gets rewarded at the end. So he'll retire with me. So we get asked about protection for the dog. We got a donation through Mass Vestadog for his ballistic, stab-resistant, and blunt force trauma-resistant vest. So this is a foundation. They've been fantastic to us. And this vest that he has was about $1,200 that they gifted to us for free. We get a question a lot: why doesn't he wear it all the time? Unfortunately, dogs can't wear ballistic panels all the time because it changes how they walk, how they jump, how they move. So we use this vest when there's a known threat or an increased threat, if there's time willing. So it's a great foundation, and they've outfitted K-9s throughout Massachusetts with vests for free, which is very important. So we're not limited to Uxbridge, which is a lot of people don't know. Because he's such a specialized capacity, and there's so much training, and there's so much having a dog, we don't want to limit his reach just to our community. So we're part of the Central Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council. We call it CEMLEC for short. Basically what they are is a law enforcement consortium that all these smaller towns that don't have their own SWAT team, they don't have their own K-9, are part of this larger community. And if, say, Douglas, who no longer has a dog, needs a dog, I will go to Douglas. If they need a SWAT team, we'll bring them a SWAT team. In turn, if Uxbridge needs something in the future, they'll bring it to us. And it's part of this bigger membership. Currently, we have accident recon, we have the K-9s, we have SWAT, we have the motor unit, which is the motorcycles. So if we have any kind of event that needs specialized traffic control, or they need escorts or whatever, we have that. And all the chiefs get together. It's a very small donation or entrance fee, but what we receive in the end is huge. So we are one of the biggest law enforcement councils in Massachusetts. If you can see our reach, we're all the way to the northern border, all the way to the southern border. This is a little bit older graphic. We actually picked up UMass campus inside Worcester. If you can believe, a state agency inside the footprint of Worcester, CEMLEC owns it, which is incredible. But we've picked up other towns. We're over 75 agencies now that any one of these SEMLEC communities will go out and assist another community. So it's very important for us. A lot of people don't understand that we are a small town. We can't afford an entire SWAT team, but if we need one now, we'll have one here. If we need a K-9, if we need 10 K-9s, we can have them here. And that goes out through all the member agencies. So we will travel with the authorization of the chief and the officer in charge or the sergeant in charge of the shift anywhere within this footprint. Or if someone else needed a dog, when Sauk had just got a dog, we would go to Rhode Island if they needed one. So we do travel frequently. We are all over this footprint, and we share his talents, so it's important. So this is a training video I did on duty. It was late at night. We're down at Hannaford's. He's looking for a firearm. So you can see his behavior change, and that's his final indication. So he's telling me that he found it. It's just, you can see how he works. He's looking for odor, and ultimately he finds it. He turns to me. His indication is he's supposed to sit, or if it's low, he'll lay down. But then he turns to me and barks and says, "Hey, I found it. It's over here." He wants a reward. So this is a little bit of his evidence. So we are on the SWAT team. This is us on range day. We're actually shooting and moving as a handler and K-9 team. This is fairly new to us and the team, and one of the things I'm working on is implementing the dogs into the team and the team into the dogs. We have a SEMLEC K-9 and we have SEMLEC SWAT, but we don't have the team working together. So this is something we've been doing recently, and it's been working fantastic. This is a recent training we did with different agencies from throughout Massachusetts. Boston Police, we had the Boston Park Police mounted unit. Basically what we're doing is in the event there's some kind of civil unrest, some civil disturbance where we have to go in and potentially rescue a first responder, they're using the horses and the dogs working together with law enforcement to go in and conduct that rescue. This runs a little bit long, so I'll skip through it a bit, but it was the first time a lot of these dogs have ever been exposed to a horse, and a lot of time, it's the first time that the horses have been exposed to the dogs. So we all work together throughout this 8-hour training day to accomplish this goal, which was pretty interesting. So this is another training we did. Everything we do is very realistic and scenario based because we want the dogs to expose to exactly what they're going to have on the street. This is me pulling up in our department cruiser, K-9 in the back. The gentleman from Boston Police is in a what we call a bite suit. It's a protective suit so the dogs can have a simulated bite on a human figure. And what he's doing is he's no longer compliant, he's assaultive, he's dangerous. He's trying to get in his car, he's trying to flee or barricade himself. So we're training the dogs to problem solve and work through this. I'm going to deploy the dog from cover, and in he goes. So believe it or not, these dogs all picked that up in about 2 tries. Now you're throwing something new at a dog, going in through a window, they have to jump, enter a dark space, and then make an apprehension. There's a lot to it. They learn so much faster than we do, it's unbelievable. But up and through the window he went. This is a demo we did a couple years ago. It was our public safety day, kind of along the same lines. There is a decoy inside the car. He's not coming out, and then the dog goes. So you can hear I don't know if you can hear it, the horn's beeping in the car. The dog is on the decoy, but he's hitting the horn with his tail. So last year we did the Connecticut K-9 Olympics, where the dog and handler works as a team to go through different obstacles. The first being a big mud pit under a down pole. But the dogs work together, and they kind of showcase for the community what we can do as a team. There's low crawls, there's jumping through tubes in the water, all kind of different obstacles, but I thought it was pretty interesting. He did a great job. This whole field is just covered with different kind of obstacles. That's just a little bit of it, but believe it or not, he swims underwater, loves to swim, hates to get wet in the rain. He won't go in the rain. So this is another very fun day for the team. Down in Connecticut, they brought in Stamford, Connecticut's Eagle One. This is this 1968 Vietnam era rescue helicopter. It's a A1H UNH Huey, and we brought all the dogs in. And we exposed them to getting in the helicopter with the engines off, then getting into the helicopter with the engines on. Proper placement of the dog, what the handler is supposed to do, how to put your seatbelt on, believe it or not, any of these variables to expose the dog to something new, something that they may never see in their career, but in the event that they do need it, they have this exposure, and it's just another tool in their toolbox. And it was a really cool day for us. And you've seen all these fancy trainings. We travel all over the place. Believe it or not, all these trainings are free. We are memberships. We are members of different training groups throughout New England, and this whole day of training, helicopter included, was free of charge. It's a great organization. Yeah. He has hearing and eye protection, so when we go to the range, he has earplugs and ballistic goggles as well. This is Stamford, right? Not Stratford? Stamford. So you can see how calm he is. He's a very calm dog anyways, but you can see what the training does. Some dogs you can't even get in your car. He's flying in a helicopter, and he's completely confident and comfortable in the entire time. We ran 2 dogs and 2 handlers at a time, and some dogs that are a little bit less sure of themselves had muzzles. You'll see another dog with a muzzle. Never had an issue with Bear, so. This is a little bit longer. I'll fast forward to this one.
A large police presence in a Dudley neighborhood Monday, but there was no.
We have a lot of
it was all a
media attention for what we do. We've been fortunate; it's all been positive. This is Worcester Channel 3. They came out to one of our training days in Dudley and kind of showcased the new Semlec K-9 unit. And Bear is very famous, so you'll see his image on here in a bit.
Which is scanning the perimeter for suspects while officers enter the building.
So that's me getting bit.
K-9 officers and their dogs.
And that's Officer Aaron Suss from Webster Police. He is our team commander, and he's been a handler for quite a while. Very,
for someone, and basically,
very well trained and a lot of experience.
Slipping out the back, and we're using the dog to apprehend them.
K-9 units from all around.
What's unique with K-9 handlers is when we're not working our dog, we're training someone else's dog, so it's always this constant training for everyone. If I'm not working Bear, I'm getting bit or being a decoy, as you can see here.
Because you just don't know what type of situation you might run into.
And because we're in a small community and all our agencies are within a certain region, we all train together. So, like Mendon's dog, Officer Pichelle, I can handle his dog, and he can handle my dog in an emergency, which is important. God forbid something happens to myself or another handler come in and can assist. And there's Bear. He's famous.
You know, the our canines are used in conjunction with the SWAT team to establish perimeters.
The Semlak K-9 unit was established 6 months ago, and they already have a long list of achievements.
Several hundred calls that we've been deployed on as a team. We've had numerous apprehensions.
2 of our canines were in a neighboring town.
Each one of these units within Semlak has a control chief, and he is our control chief for Semlak K-9.
Our canines went out to a neighboring town and located a missing girl, a small child.
So the event he was talking about, we got called at, I believe it was 1 in the morning, over to assist Shrewsbury or Westbury. It was Shrewsbury. Missing girl. She'd been missing for quite some time. I think she was only 4 or 5 years old. We had 5 dogs deployed within an hour, and they came from all different communities, and she was found very, very shortly after. So we have all these assets, and we share all our assets, which is very important for our community. So we went to a 3-person shooting in Milford recently, and he was on Channel 5. Not much of a clip, but he is famous. He's all over the TV and social media, I believe. Yep, that's it. So what I'd like to do is open up to any questions that you have. I'll answer anything you have. I love to talk about the dog, so I'm here as long as you need, and any questions you have. Yep.
Now, when you were working in one of those little houses, he actually took the protective arm gear from the officer, and he was continuing holding it. And when does he ever release it?
So the question was, in the video where you saw the decoy had the sleeve on, and the decoy slipped the sleeve off and the dog carried it away. There's 2 parts of that. These dogs are alpha dogs. They're trained to always win, because they have to have this mindset that they never lose. So in a realistic scenario like that, we'll either have the bad guy run away in fear to build the dog's confidence, or he'll slip the sleeve so he gets this big reward. Whether it's a ball, food, or the sleeve, everything's the same as far as the reward. So for the dog, he won and he carried that arm away, or the sleeve. So it's important to build the dog's confidence, because they never lose. Getting a dog to let go is a lot different. Some dogs will do it, some dogs won't. We have different techniques, whether using a collar or a stimulation from an electronic collar. It just simulates the mother picking them up as a puppy. It's not cruel, or it's not punishment, but it's a form of correction that we can use. And there's different, we use verbal commands, we certify with those, but there's a lot that goes into it. It's one of the harder things to do, to take the dog's toy away. It's difficult. He probably will not give me this ball right now, so I'm not going to try. But we do have different techniques to do it. So.
Now, if that were real,
yep.
how would you get the dog off that criminal?
We have different ways we control the collar. Dogs under their jaw have a gag reflex like a human. So if you apply the collar in certain ways, they'll just spit it out. And it's the most humane and safe way to do it for everyone. And you got to realize that the person that is getting bit is going to be in a lot of pain. There's going to be other officers trying to take that person into custody. So there's a lot of dynamics going around the dog. So we have to control the head. That's where the teeth are, and that's what bites. We do have different methods that we do it that's safer for everyone, but each situation is going to determine which type we use.
There is a command.
Yep, we do have a verbal out command, and it's scenario-based. It's not applicable to everything, but in our certifications, for him to pass the apprehension part, he has to verbal out and come back to me. Yes?
Take commands just from you or from somebody else?
The question was, does he take commands from just me or anyone else? What we find is it's not so much the command, it's how you say it. So I can give the bite command right now, and he's not going to say it. But if he's locked on a target and I give him the bite command, he's going to do what I say. So it's kind of specific to the environment again and what is happening at the time. His commands are in German for the most part, and you could give the bite command right now and he's not going to even hear it. But if I say it and it's in a specific tone and the way I say it, he's gonna respond. So it's a lot of that handler bond in the time that we have training together. So we're not going to have any accidents if someone accidentally gives the command because he's waiting for me to give that command.
Now, when you're around duty,
Yep.
and there are other dogs, trainers, something can happen to you.
Mhm.
He's working with, you say you work with these other handlers. Would they be able to command him so that you're protected as well as the dog? How does that?
The question was, if something happens to the handler, can another handler use that same command? We do have, yes, we do have the verbal commands that we pair with an actual physical act. So whether it's a correction on a leash or a collar, an e-collar, whatever we're using at the time, we pair that with the verbal command. So if I can't give the verbal command, someone else can come in and use the verbal command plus whatever behavioral command that they're going to use. So in theory, yes, it is possible. Some dogs won't work for someone else. Some dogs will. In our case, we do work with each other's dogs. That, like Mendon has a great dog. We're classmates together. The dogs have been exposed together for 3 years. I could probably work Brady, and he could work Bear, excuse me, without an issue. But someone else from somewhere else may not be able to. So we do have contingencies for it, but for the most part, we pair what we want the dog to do physically with a verbal command, so there's always those two components.
All commands in German?
For the most part. I did have a trainer in Boston. His commands are all in Japanese because that's what he trained his dog to do. Some of the dogs that come from the Czech Republic, they'll keep the Czech commands. Some people do use Dutch. For our purposes, he's a Dutch Shepherd, but the commands are kind of wordy. And German is very concise. If you ever listen to, Nine Fui, it's all very concise words, and it works good for the dogs. And he came with the German foundation, so I wasn't going to change it. But it's not the word, it's how you say it. And we've paired this behavior with a certain word for so long. It could be whatever word it is, as long as it's paired with that same behavior and it's consistent. They say 100 to 200 times before a dog understands a behavior and the command for it, and then it's constant repetition to keep that actual behavior. So there's a lot to it. The question was, does he live with me? He does. It's important because I do all his care, maintenance, and training, and when he's not working, there's a lot of aftercare that goes with it. So he has a very nice kennel at the house, and for inclement weather, if it's really cold out or storming or whatever, he's crate trained, so he has a crate in the house that can keep him warm. A lot of people have the misconception that a working dog is a pet. It's not. Working dogs are extremely happy with what they do, but we can't blur that line between being a pet and being a working dog. Pets are happy doing their thing. Working dogs are very happy doing their thing. The worst thing you can do for one of these high drive dogs is bore them. They'll either eat everything in your house, or they'll get sick, or they'll just lose the desire to live. So these dogs love being police dogs. They absolutely love it because they're being challenged constantly, and they're always with their handler. So part of that is keeping him at the house. He's always with me. So if he's not working, he's at the house, and if we're not training, he's in his kennel. So it's important to keep that bond. Yep. Questions? You got one in the back, I can tell. All right, well, I appreciate you listening to me talk. We love what we do. We love the town. We have a ton of support from the community. There's not been one negative word about the program, the dog, maybe the handler, but on social media, everyone has an opinion, and it's very hard to keep everything positive all the time. In 3 years, we've never had any negative comments or any, bad press or anything like that. It's always been super positive and supportive, and we appreciate that. Well, thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time and your attention to the dog, and we've got a great team here. We hope to keep them going. Thank you all for coming.